Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. I am your host, Javon Harrington, back to hit you with another video. And today, we are here to continue Konosuba, Mystic Rangers of Misfortune, Part 3, based on the heroes of the Morphing Grid series. As always, if you're a fan of the channel and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that has to come out now and in the future. If you're here, then that means you've already completed the video that came out earlier today, that being part 2 of this series. Yes, this is a double upload day, so good for you. This video, we are going to wrap up the Season 1 portion of Konosuba. That way we can go into next week and try to get through Season 2 as quickly as we can, as we are looking to wind down our slate of videos going into the final stretch for the double major crossover event in the anime Power Rangers series and the anime Marvel series. But without further ado, we're going to continue today's story. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Kazuma and the others would quickly make their way to the guild to learn of the situation at hand. The mobile fortress, or otherwise known as the Destroyer, was set on a path that would allow it to cross through the town, and it would be on its way in well over an hour. Viewing through a crystal ball, Kazuma would get a chance to see what the mobile fortress truly was. It was in fact a tall, like tower that seemed to be suspended on mechanical legs like that of a spider, crawling across the land, leaving a path of destruction in its way. For Kazuma's party, they were called mainly because of their power, along with Wiz also, as she was a guardian of the town. It would be up to them to lead the attack against the Destroyer. Of course, for Kazuma and his other friends, even with the new power that they had acquired, they still didn't see how they in any way could possibly deal any damage against the mobile fortress. That was until Wiz explained that they actually did have a power that could fight against it. This left everyone in the mess hall shocked. To think that there was actually something that could destroy that thing. Although Wiz would explain that it was something that she had planned to teach them, she didn't think that they'd have to use it so soon. They could use something called Titan forms that would allow them to have the size and the energy to match against the mobile fortress. The moment Kazuma heard Titan form, it caused him to stop and to think. If these powers were anything like the ones that he had seen in cartoons back in his world, then did that mean they were going to get their own mechs? Mechs in a magical world? That didn't even make any sense. Although, to be honest, he really didn't care. He really wanted to go for it. Wiz would explain that they were going to have to use the spell Galwick Misto Porphyry. In doing so, it would enable them to transform into their Mystic Titan ability. Of course, they would need to be outside of the city because if they did it in here, well, they'd end up just causing more damage and adding more debt. And Kazuma, he didn't want more debt. They all made their way to the outskirts of the city, going to its outer walls. Wiz would take the lead, stepping forward. As she used the spell first, she would begin to grow and transform in size, but also she would begin to change, until eventually she was almost the size of the Destroyer itself, although she had taken the form of a mech-like unicorn, or the snow unicorn to be specific, in accordance with her ability over ice and snow. Seeing what they were capable of doing, Kazuma and the others would follow her lead. Megumi would summon the Mystic Phoenix, taking on a humanoid robotic form based off of that of the Phoenix, the Red Phoenix, with her mighty sword. As for Darkness, she would turn into a humanoid griffin mech of sorts, the Mystic Garuda. As for Aqua, she would transform into the Mystic Mermaid Maiden. And for Kazuma, he would transform into the Mystic Minotaur. With the 5 mechs now standing together, Wiz would explain to them how they were able to make it work and function. But to everyone else's shock, they were surprised that they weren't actually the mech itself. They were still inside of the mech, in some specialized formed cockpit. A cockpit where they were sitting inside of a kettle on a chessboard. Kazuma wasn't going to question this. This was just absolutely awesome. The mech was controlled mentally with their mind. In doing so, it would do whatever they commanded it to do. With that in mind, they were going to have to come up with a plan to destroy the mobile fortress before it could get too close. Aqua would take the lead. Using her abilities, she could break down the barrier around the fortress, allowing for them to attack it. Both Wiz and Megumi would launch a combined double explosion. For Wiz, she had the capability of using any other element. She just inherited ice power from her mother, Udana. Of course, Megumi was a bit nervous about launching an explosion of this kind, seeing as how she wasn't sure if even her powers were capable of dealing enough destructive force against the destroyer. However, Kazuma was having none of it. They had gotten too far now for it to end like this. Using some choice words of motivation, saying that maybe her explosions weren't up to par. Maybe they weren't good enough to get the job done, and maybe she wasn't the true master of explosions that she claimed to be. Well, hearing that was more than enough to get Megumi fired up, knowing that she would not be second to any when it came to the true art of explosions. Honestly, if she had been born in another world, I think her and a certain someone could get along over their love of explosions. Both she and Wiz would combine for a double explosive attack, using them in tandem and amplifying them to their highest degree, as the Phoenix Titan and the Unicorn Titan would launch their double attack together against the destroyer, stopping it in its tracks and seemingly defeating it. As they all powered off, reducing themselves back to their regular forms, the 5 Rangers, along with everyone else, would celebrate in victory, as they thought the worst was over. That was until a self-destruct sequence went off, and then everyone realized that they were royally screwed. If they didn't do something about that explosion, it was going to wipe out a large portion of the area. That included the town and everyone in it. Escape was basically pointless, so the only thing they could do was somehow make their way inside and attempt to stop it before it happened. As they walked through the mobile fortress, they would learn more about its inner workings and how it had come to be. They would learn that Aqua kind of had a reason for it being here in the first place. Although Aqua would deny having any responsibility, Kazuma was not hearing any of it when they found a book inside of the fortress. A book that revealed just about everything. You see, apparently, some scientist that died in another world was sent here by Aqua. When he was sent here, he had been strong-armed into building strong and powerful weapons, although it wasn't really something that he wanted to do. Trying to gain his own freedom, he ended up building the destroyer. However, the destroyer did its job a little too well. In the process, not only did it destroy the scientist captors, but it pretty much started causing nothing but pandemonium and destruction all throughout the various parts of the world. And since there was little that he could do about it, as he was in his old age at the time, well, this thing was pretty much left to its own devices. So now, they were all pretty much doomed. There was nothing that they could really do. Of course, Kazuma suggested that they use their Titan forms again, and that they could just simply create some type of shield and hold off the attack. And Wiz thought that that might be a good idea, although for the fact that it could potentially end up killing all of them in the process as well. But for Kazuma, they had to do something. That was until Wiz suggested that they could teleport it away. Liking that idea, he gave it the go-ahead, although she admitted she was a little low on power, so she was going to need to borrow some. As she took off her helmet, she looked towards Kazuma and asked if he would be willing. She said she was going to need to suck it out. Kazuma, he was more than willing to take one for the team. As he took off his helmet and Wiz got closer to him, Kazuma thought that if a kiss was all that it took, then he was going to give it all he had. Or at least that's what he thought, because she ended up grabbing his hand and using Drain Touch, draining him of almost all of his magical power, giving her just enough strength to be able to teleport it away. Although, before she did so, she asked if there was anywhere specific she should send it. Kazuma simply said as far as possible. He didn't care where it wound up. Taking him by his word, she did as she was instructed, and the core of the mobile fortress that was getting ready to explode was sent off somewhere else, saving the town and everyone in it. The only thing that was left was the husk of the machine, and Megami would use one more powerful explosion to destroy it once and for all. It seemed as though they had won. Victory was theirs, and there was nothing more for them to worry about. As the town began to celebrate, everyone making their way to the guild once more, the drinks were flowing and the good times were plenty. Kazuma and the other rangers were being praised. They were the true heroes of this town, potentially the heroes that the world needed. For Kazuma, this made him feel a little better. And besides, destroying the destroyer, that had to be worth more than enough to cover off their debt. In the end, it looked as though everything was looking up grand. As everyone was enjoying their drinks and the party itself, the doors would come swinging open as a woman dressed in military garb, along with a couple of other knights, would make their way in immediately. She demanded the presence of Kazuma Sato. Kazuma believed that he was in for another reward, so he gladly made his way up to the front of the guild, wondering what he was going to receive. That was until a paper was held up to his face, explaining that Kazuma was not getting a reward, although he was getting a vacation straight to jail. You see, when Kazuma gave the order for Wiz to teleport the core of the destroyer far away, not caring where it landed, well, that was a lapse of judgment on his part, because the core ended up landing in the house of a famed lord of the town, and it ended up blowing away his house altogether. Now, thankfully, no one was there at the time, so there was no death, but still, this could be seen as an act of terror and treason and conspiring with the Devil King. Of course, though, Kazuma couldn't believe his very eyes. The idea that he was working with the enemy after everything he had been through. And the people of the guild felt the same. They knew Kazuma's character, and they knew he wasn't the type of guy who would do something like that. Megumi and the others were all standing up for him proudly. That was until it was revealed that anyone who supported him could be going to jail also and facing severe crimes, especially due to the fact that Kazuma also had a lot of other charges that had been building up against him. Yeah, it's not really looking too good when you go around holding girls' panties high in the air and just swinging them around like they're on a flagpole. And also, when Megumi used her explosion, she ended up doing more damage to the wall that they destroyed in the first place. So, if she took responsibility for that, then she could go to jail also. But since Kazuma gave her the order to do so, then technically it all fell on his shoulders. One by one, everybody turned their heads. They said nothing. They did nothing. And then Kazuma realized he was on his own. But he wasn't out of it just yet. Kazuma grabbed his wand from his back pocket, attempting to make a morphin run, but before he could do so, he ended up tripping and falling. If there was ever a moment where his luck betrayed him, it was now. Before he could reach for his wand once again though, the guards would make a dash towards him immediately. Kazuma had no choice. He attempted to run out the door. He tried to run as far away as he could. However, almost as if the gods or some cruel being was playing a trick on him, his pants started to fall down. They fell down to his ankles, and he tripped and fell on his face, the guards picking him up by the arms and placing him under arrest as he was carried away to the jail. Although, luckily, Aqua picked up his wand just in time and was able to stash it away so it wouldn't be taken from him. They didn't want to lose another ranger. Kazuma looked from the back of the wagon in handcuffs, his crying eyes being the last things his friends would see as they slowly made their way out of the town to the local jail. For Kazuma, things couldn't have gotten any worse. He was in debt and branded as a criminal, with the looming charge of death weighing over him. Just how on earth had he gotten himself in this mess? Here he thought he was supposed to be the hero, the savior. But no, he was simply a mystic ranger with a lot of misfortune. This concludes Konosuba, Mystic Rangers of Misfortune, Part 3, based on the heroes of the Morphing Grid series. If you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcasting that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue What If Captain America Was in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures? JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, The First Avengers, Part 2. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.